Chapter 15, Section 3, starting on page 1019. Continuing with your graphs. Once again, in this section, you have got to study your vocabulary. There are 9 more words you need to be studying. You have got quite the list. The graphs aren't that difficult in this chapter, but the vocabulary you need to study. On this, a dot plot is a graph. You know these, you've seen these. Stem and leaf, side by side, stem and leaf, and then the rest of the words describe the graph distribution. On page 1020, there is a large chart. Talks about 2010 Winter Olympics, the top 20 countries with medal wins. So you've got the United States, they won 9 gold medals, 37 total. Germany won 10 gold and 30 total. On the next page, here is a line plot. They're also called dot plots. And this is what it looks like as far as representing countries that won 0 gold medals. 2 countries won no gold medals. On this one, 4. 3 countries won 2, and so forth. That's a dot plot. You've seen these before. Not too hard. When you are building these types of graphs, you need to think about your interval. Are you going to go by ones? Think about what number you are starting with, and make sure you label your graph. On page 1023, symmetric, skewed right, and skewed left. These 3 words describe the distribution of your data on your graph. So pretend this is a line plot right here. Most of the graph, most of the data is centered in the middle. And then you have some on the left and you have some on the right. That is called a symmetrical distribution. On the second example, see how most of the data is over here, kind of leans to the left. This data is skewed right. So if skewed right, most of the data is on the left, just to make it a little confusing. And the opposite, if most of the data is on the right side of your graph, that means it is skewed left. Yes, I know it's backwards. 2 other important words, clusters and gaps. If it's a cluster, this is where you have a large amount of data. A gap is where there is no data, no data. So example, you have a graph that looks like this, and all of a sudden you got some over here. This would be a gap. This is a cluster. Don't add any words after it, just a cluster. And then the absence of data is called a gap. Problem 3 on page 1025. Large chart, total number of medals won by various countries, 2008 Summer Olympics. So you have the United States, 110, China, won 100, and it goes down from there. Jump to page 1027. On 1027, this is called a stem and leaf graph. The stem is your base number, and the leaf would be, in this case, be your ones. So the numbers in the first row are 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5. And you see how you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So I would have 6 5s. That means 6 countries won 5 medals. Look at the stem for 2. So these numbers, this is base 10, so this is 24, 25, 27, and 28. If you look at the stem for 4, you've got 40, 41, 46, and 47. One thing I like stem and leaf for is it helps you find your mode. This is a word that we will talk about more. Mode means most. So the number that appears most in our graph would either be the 5s or the 6s, and it looks like the 6. So this is a stem and leaf. On page 1029, we have another large chart. This one's talking about dead presidents. So you have the age at inauguration, when they took office, and you have their age at death. So Washington took office at 57. He died at 67. Adams took office at 61. He died later at 90. That does not mean he was in office all that time. That's just when he passed away. So on page 1031, this is what your practice set's going to look like for your packet. You have the ages of former U.S. presidents died. If you look back in your chart, you would find that one president died at 49. One president died at 46. Another one's, so in the 50s, going through the chart, I'm not putting them in any numerical order right now. I have 53, 56, 57, 58, and another at 57. So this is just a way to organize your data. This is, once again, this is called a stem and leaf. On page 1032 is another example of a stem and leaf. This is called a double stem and leaf. Double stem and leaf. Remember that chart we had the ages at inauguration, the ages at death? So your stem right here, those are your base 10 numbers. And then I can do inauguration. I have two 49s, a 48, 46, 43, 42, 42. Ages at death, I have 46 and 49. That is a double stem and leaf. You will be practicing this in your... So going back to page 1019, I just want to review the vocabulary again. So you have three types of graphs. Two of them are the same. You have a dot plot, in other words called a line plot. That's just your number line and X's. And then you have your stem and leaf. You figure out the base, and then your leaf connects with the base. For vocabulary, distribution means the way the data is spread out. Symmetrical, same on both sides, just like we use in geometry. If it's skewed right, data's on the left, large amount of data. If it's skewed left, most of your data is on the right. Cluster is just a group, and gap is where there is no data. That's chapter 15, section 3. Get your packet and do some practice problems.